Coming up after the break, we have more fascinating stories, a panel discussion, and one of the topics which I was learning about is mining and black cladding. It's the practice of falsely passing yourself off as an Indigenous company to win lucrative government contracts. That will be an interesting discussion, so stay with us.
Now, back live with Mundine Means Business.
Welcome back to Mundine Means Business. It's now time for our panel discussion. Joining us in Sydney is Crystal Kinsella Christie. You've got an ad on there, and the Director of Indigenous Professional Services. Welcome, and good to see you back. You're a regular face. In our Melbourne studio, we have Isaac Harrison, the Managing Director of Bunjil Energy. New face, welcome Isaac. And in Perth, we have Tammy O'Connor, Director of Kinkara Group, also an old face on the show. No, not an old face, I should say, but welcome to see you back again. And thanks for joining us all. Let's kick off the panel discussion in regard to Indigenous procurement stuff and about how you see, Crystal, some of the changes and some of the things that need to be done in this area.
Well, it's been interesting to see that we've had introduction of new joint venture requirements that have come out from the Minister, and I think that they will help to strengthen the Indigenous procurement policy. There's a lot of discussion around black cladding and people that are forming joint ventures.
Yeah, just explain to us a bit, that term black cladding. I know you all know what it means. Yeah. I hadn't heard it, so can you explain what it is?
Well, I guess it's sort of like a black facade. So there's an Indigenous business person and it's...
So you just put up a front person to make it look like Indigenous?
A front person to make it look like it is.
And don't they check, though, to see if it's a genuine Indigenous?
Well, you would assume that people would be
We're talking government.
Well, you'd assume that people would do their due diligence. They'd be looking to see if someone's registered or certified with Supply Nation. That'd be the first thing. But, yeah, unfortunately, there are some businesses that are getting through the door and creating issues for other businesses where there are genuine joint ventures that are coming forward that are proving to, want to do things the right way.
Yeah. So Isaac, in regard to this problem that we're having, I know at the beginning they just wanted to get the policy up and get it out there and make things happen. And some people have been trying to take advantage of that. So what do you think needs to be done and moving forward in this area?
Yeah, look, there's nothing wrong with a good JV. It comes down to the motives of the two parties. We meet a lot of tier one in construction who wanting to work with Indigenous businesses, but they don't have the capability. So, and a lot of Indigenous people don't want to upscale and become a medium-sized or even a large sort of organisation. So they're sort of pushed to the side, and then it makes room for a lot of these guys who are coming in as a rebranded version of a current company, which doesn't really build equity for the Indigenous people. So, yeah, just looking closely at if there's actually control in the organisation from Indigenous leaders. But what most important is the equity going back to Indigenous people, because once the work's done, what's there, what's the next contract sort of thing.
And Sammy, you've been involved in this area for a while. So what's your experience in moving forward?
I've got a lot of experience with the joint venture side and the black cladding. I guess I was one of those Aboriginal businesses out in the beginning that, got involved with the company that I won't name, and it did come down to black cladding, because with all the native title stuff in the mining companies, you had to be involved with a traditional owner business to get an opportunity out in the mine site. So a lot of people just ran out and grabbed a hold of a lot of people and took them into a joint venture, and they just didn't do it right. So, it took me a while to get involved, and now I guess I am involved with the company that, if I look back how it was before, it's a lot different. Like, I'm more involved. I'm supervising one of my contracts out at Solomon. They're sitting down and going through the P&Ls with me, going to meetings. I guess when I first started in a joint venture, I was that excited that I was going to get this opportunity, and they sort of give you this big name and a business card, and they take you to a couple of meetings, and then they sort of don't involve you and tell you, you don't have to come along, or you don't have to do this. And when they bid the work, they don't have you part of the bidding and stuff like that there, and they're putting it in their own company. So you've got to watch out for that.
Can I just ask you all, I guess what you're saying here is we talk a lot on this show about the opportunities in mining and how it's taken decades, and now we're seeing where it's going, and companies like Warren's today. But are you saying that now defence is the next area where the opportunities are, that a bit like mining, it's taken a while, but now rather than just having Indigenous people in the companies and in the areas, the actual companies, the opportunities are for Indigenous-owned companies. Is that what you're saying?
Most definitely. I actually did a report for the Centre of Defence Industry Capability early this year that had a look at the barriers for Indigenous businesses entering defence. And, you know, one of the things that the report did identify is that, you know, the size and scale of the opportunities sometimes puts a lot of pressure on Indigenous businesses. And so joint ventures in a lot of respects are an opportunity for them to gain technical expertise, gain the size, gain the capital investment, the technology to be able to help them to be able to meet these types of contracts.
Yeah, look, I agree with Isaac and the rest of you. I don't have a problem with joint ventures. As people know, I'm involved in a big mining one and that. But it is about, you know, you've got to have your hands-on approach. You've got to have making sure that the profits are going back, you know, at least 50-50 to those Aboriginal groups, and also and the other important part is about the employment. How you are not only bringing Aboriginal people into work in those companies, but also about skilling them up. So, for instance, in our company, we've already identified a person who will be taking over as managing director over the next couple of years. These are the things that we need to have there, so that the Aboriginal group, and also the board, you know, the board's got to be properly set up as a commercial board where those Aboriginal people have a strong say in what's happening.
Yeah, well, it's exactly as Isaac said. It's about the control element that needs to be, you know, discussed. And I think in really promising joint ventures, it's a two-way transfer of skills and knowledge. Indigenous businesses transferring stuff around cultural capability and competency, reconciliation, and then vice versa.
Tabby, I'm just wondering, in the defence space, where are the opportunities? I can think of 50 billion reasons in Adelaide, submarines, but specifically, where are the opportunities, or are they all over? Like, I mean, I think you're doing some land-based, there's some special ones in Western Australia, I think, to do with transport boats and things. But just some ideas on where the opportunities are for Indigenous companies here.
Sorry, was that question for me?
Yes, Tabby, I was just saying, where are the opportunities?
Well, with me, and I think we've touched on this before on this show, like, it's a little bit hard. Like, I'm from the Pilbara, and it's all mining based up there, and a lot of the stuff that I do and the opportunity that I got to get into business was through mining companies like Fortescue Metal Group, which started my joint venture with the company that I'm in. But to understand the government space, like, we sort of hear it in the federal government stuff, and we sort of have, I've touched in there as a business, and I'm looking to expand to get into the government side now that I've got the capability, and I've been in the business for a couple of years and I've understand it. So I guess I'm going to look towards a lot of people that are in that space to sort of help me out and understand how do I get involved there as an Aboriginal business.
Yeah, and we also got to look at, in Isaac, we've got to go beyond just thinking about, you know, like the $50 billion boats.
I can't get past it.
You know, you may not be a boat builder, but there are other things that come along with that. They've got to have cleaners, they've got to have electricians, they've got to have energy suppliers like yourself, and so are they the opportunities that we're talking about?
Yeah, so we've done work for Australian Submarine Corporation, and because the Indigenous business place is quite, it's still quite young, it's maturing, its early stages, there's a lot of capability that we just didn't know that we needed to have. So it's been an adventure for us, and with myself and my co-founder, we actually looked to other Indigenous businesses, funnily enough, who have had success in the defence, just like any other capability network would. And we find there's a real camaraderie with other brothers and sisters who are Indigenous, who want to help each other out. And we find that that's actually our best way going forward. And Supply Nation do really well to sort of facilitate introductions. You know, people want to go there to get close to buyers. But we find that meeting other Indigenous businesses is just as valuable. In fact, some of our jobs today, I could put a figure on that came through introductions from other Indigenous businesses. So it is a journey, and you've got to be in it for the long run. And that's what us Indigenous people are sort of getting our heads around because of, you know, the handout mentality. But now is the time for Indigenous businesses to really sort of stand up and work together and start going back to what our ancestors did, and that's, you know, work the land.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah, just finishing up in time, that defence is a great area, but they're also, you know, you're looking at New South Wales, something like $90 billion worth of infrastructure contracts going out there, and there's great opportunities for us, and they've got what they call the APP, the Aboriginal Procurement Policy. We need to. How do we get people in front of that? Yeah.
In front of the APP?
Yeah.
Oh, we've got to raise awareness, I think. And it's on both sides. It's with Indigenous businesses about the opportunities, but it's also within government. They've got to understand how to engage with us as Indigenous business owners, and they've also got to make sure that the procurement processes are conducive to help and support Indigenous businesses to be able to, you know, tender appropriately. And yeah, I think it's a two-way kind of education.
And shows
process.
like this.
And shows like this. We've got to get more of this show. For 8 million people out there who watch our show. Now, look, we could talk about this all day, and look, and having incredible panellists like yourselves on. I'd like to thank you, Tammy and Isaac and Crystal, for coming on again. But time's run us out, and so I'd like to thank you for being on the show. And again, of course, I'd like to thank my co-host, Janine Perrott, for joining us. You know, we missed her last week, but she's back again. And goodbye, and catch up next Sunday for Mundine Means Business.
Mundine Means Business, proudly presented by West